The 4th of July 2010, Sunday, July 4th, 2010. There's the date and time. On this 4th of July 2010, I, Michael Swinson, have decided to continue my fight against growing evil by our own and other governments around the world that are increasingly implementing policies of death upon innocent and unsuspecting citizens in the name of population management. My personal sufferings makes it unconscionable for me to allow the people that committed heinous crimes against my person with intent to murder me, to roam free and to do their evil to others. I have decided that the brave patriots who died fighting eugenic fascism in World War II did not do so because it was what they wanted to do. It wasn't fulfilling their dreams and ambitions for life. It wasn't at the top of their list to die in the battlefield against evil. But because when such evil on earth does arise and is done by wicked and insane persons, it unfortunately demands all sane and honorable individuals' efforts at either arresting them or stopping them, even if ultimately lethal force is necessary. I agree with all those who fought that evil in World War II, and I agree with our founding presidents who publicly stated that the 4th of July, Independence Day, should be forever a holy day unto our Lord Jesus Christ, who they publicly declared by divine acts won our freedom as an independent nation and people against the then tyrannical oppressors of their day. Sadly, after years of seeking a competent and honest investigation into heinous crimes I witnessed and survived firsthand, it appears that our own governing officials and other national governments are supporting and practicing quite similar atrocities as those committed by the Nazis. After devoting all my strength and energy to contacting all responsible persons of authority that had any jurisdiction in the matters I survived and witnessed firsthand, and I have supporting evidence as proof, I am left with no other reasonable action than to warn all citizens that mass murderers are being left loose in hospitals across this country, and the ones I witnessed firsthand are practicing their homicides for illegal organ harvesting and other evil motives at Deaconess Medical Center in Spokane, Washington, and Kootenai Medical Center NIBH Division in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. The first authorities I notified of these crimes occurred where I was living because local physicians were covering for the murderous ones and purposely were not running requested tests as further proof of what these criminals did to me. So my first attempts at securing public safety were signed affidavits sent to the Spokane, Bonner County, and Sandpoint police departments. Sadly, our society, through its unfortunate departure from God and reality thereby, to the brainwashed religion of evolutionary thought, drumming into people's minds that they came from monkeys despite all evidence scientifically to the contrary, has caused some of the most deplorable behavior in the history of the world. As local law enforcement, instead of arresting my complicit wife, who had been poisoning me over an extended period of time, so as to make it appear that I was dying of natural causes, so that she could get the estate and life insurance, instead of arresting her, decided to blackmail her for sex acts and leave a poisoner loose in society to potentially seduce and murder some other innocent victim. They thereby also left the mass murdering doctors and nurses loose to continue their depraved actions upon innocent persons for gain or for other insane reasons. Each victim that is murdered in hospitals in the United States of America and other countries, but in the United States of America, generates over $1 million of gross revenue in illegal organ transplants. There is more than enough reason for doctors and nurses and hospitals in general to continue these practices if citizens will not take note and demand accountability and the arrests of all such criminals. I did not realize at the time I reported these crimes how widespread these practices are, nor how hospital administrators threaten jobs, pensions, and lives to keep would-be whistleblowers on a tight leash. Nor did I realize the government's own involvement in supporting human experimentation and population management procedures and practices through these death squads in local hospitals nationally. It has been a horrific process of personal discovery as I have tried in vain to find even one sane and competent person in government anywhere willing to address these crimes in the name of public safety, fulfilling their oaths of office. For years I wondered at the prophecies in the Holy Bible condemning pharmaceutical manufacturers and all their pill-pushing colleagues to the flames of hell and the lake of fire, and I quote the original text in the Holy Bible, Revelation chapter 21 and verse 8. But the fearful and unbelieving and the abominable and murderers and whoremongers and pharmacists and idolaters and all liars shall have their part in the lake which burns with fire and brimstone, which is the second of death. And in Revelation 22:14 and 15 in the original text, blessed are all they that do his commandments, that they may have the right to the tree of life, and may enter in through the gates into the city. For without are dogs and pharmacists, and whoremongers, and murderers, and idolaters, and whosoever loves to make a lie. The word pharmacist, or those that manufacture drugs and distribute them and push them upon others and deceive them into taking harmful toxic chemicals to their detriment in the name of so-called medical science or medical treatment, was translated in the King James Version as sorcerers because that's what they called such alchemists in their day. But the original text in the Greek specifically says pharmacists, people that make drugs, people that chemically make toxins for human ingestion and call that acceptable medical practice, forcing it upon unsuspecting citizens. People are dying. There are numerous, thousands upon thousands of lawsuits over all the harmful toxins that are being put on the market approved by our government for human ingestion. And don't tell me these people don't know what they're doing. They won't take what they're prescribing, they won't take what they're manufacturing, and they're forcing it upon other citizens, innocent Americans, and especially in the mental wards of America. Anybody that is deemed mentally ill, life is in danger. If not their life, permanent brain damage and organ damage. You can literally be locked up having committed no crime whatsoever, having broken no laws whatsoever, by occultists these days called psychologists and psychiatrists, who can then assault you at any time they will, hold you down, forcefully feed you these substances, these poisons, until you're either brain dead or really dead. And this is occurring in this country, the United States of America. I witnessed it firsthand. I've got proof that this happened. And I can't get one single authority anywhere in this country to arrest these criminals. They are murdering people. They are not only murdering people, they are torturing people. They smile as they destroy people's lives. They think it's funny to watch someone drool on themselves. These people are sick. What they are doing in the name of psychology and psychiatry is no better than the Nazi experimentation and tortures and murders that were done in World War II, that we all internationally condemned. They are killing people. It doesn't matter that they're using chemicals to do it. They are killing people. And people that try to resist them, that know these drugs are killing them, they force feed it to them. They hold them down. Those people, those poor citizens, don't have a chance. They are forced down by armed goons in these psychiatric wards that hold them down, that tie them down, and then inject them and or pour the stuff down their pried open mouths. They're fighting for their lives. People are dying. And I can't get anyone on the outside to believe this is going on. Anytime these patients actually escape these maniacs and try to tell authorities, they all just automatically go like this. I'm telling the truth. I witnessed this firsthand. They try to do it to me. I am a licensed and ordained minister. I'm an educated person, not highly educated, but educated in our colleges and schools in America. I'm not mentally ill. I saw these things take place firsthand when I know it sounds crazy, but it's the truth. I married a clever person, man, that poisoned me, tried to murder me, and when I went to authorities, because other people joined in, I didn't know her involvement at the time. When I went to authorities about it, she did her best to discredit me, and one of the ways she did it was by betraying me to these people, claiming that I had lost my mind, rather than that I was telling the truth. They all joined together and are all lying about what they did to me. Of course they're going to. They tried to murder me. Nobody's going to come right out and say, oh yeah, we're doing this left and right that are doing these things. An investigation needs to occur. And not just where you go up and ask the murderers, are you doing these things? No. An investigation at the evidence, man, of the victims. I'm one of the rare survivors that knows what the hell happened to me, can testify firsthand what these people did to me, and has medical evidence proving they did it to me. And I can't get anybody to help me arrest these criminals? That to me says our government is sanctioning these actions and leaving these persons loose to prey upon innocent citizens at will. And if that's all right with you, then just all continue to pretend like this isn't going on until enough innocent citizens die or are tortured and come forward to cause you to realize. I hope it's not going to take another Holocaust before this put to a halt immediately. These people belong behind bars if not executed, man. There's no telling how many people they've tortured and murdered. If I witnessed it firsthand and they tried to do it to me, and I'm a rare survivor, and plus a person willing to go public, despite all the opposition I've received, despite all the looks, despite all the people going like this, man, you people need to wake up. They are publicly advertising that they are putting on the market drugs that have caused deaths. We're not just talking a rare percentage here. We're talking hundreds of thousands of deaths. Lawsuits after lawsuits after lawsuits, and those are the documented cases. There are millions of undocumented cases of sufferers around the world. What they're doing is evil. God says so. And I've experienced it firsthand and know so. And I'm going to fight it with everything that I have. The prophecy that I also was troubled and wondered about was that it said all nations would be deceived by pharmaceutical medications, until I witnessed firsthand what's going on in the name of medical treatment. The prophecy quoted in its original text is in Revelation 18, verse 23, as it states, "And the light of the candle shall no more shine at all in you, and the voice of the bridegroom and the bride shall be heard no more at all in you. For your merchants were the great men of the earth, for by pharmaceutical medications were all nations deceived." Despite reading the warnings of Brave New World in 1984, I asked myself, why would pharmaceutical manufacturers and their pill-pushing colleagues be condemned by God to the lake of fire? Did this not seem like harsh judgment to throw them into the flames of murderers? Till I witnessed firsthand while being betrayed by my murderous ex-wife into the hands of these psycho quacks, calling themselves psychologists and psychiatrists. Consider the origin of their religion. It is based upon the opinions, the likes of Freud, Jung, and other individuals of secular humanistic worldview philosophies. This field has been experimenting on animals and humans and are associated with some of the worst horrors in human history. This cult, through brainwashing the public, has tricked the masses into thinking that they are scientists and doctors. They are individuals who devised tortures in Nazi Germany and performed horrendous experiments on innocent human beings. Psychological hospitals are so notorious for their crimes against humanity that movies such as One Who Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest were made to warn us that these cultists think that torture in the form of electroshock therapy and lobotomies, chemical-induced permanent brain and organ damaging and premature death of their patients is all acceptable medical practice. I witnessed firsthand local psychiatrists giving toxic pharmaceutical medications to a man who was clearly jaundiced and dying from the administered medications. This medication specifically carried a warning in writing from the manufacturer not to administer that substance to anyone with liver damage, clearly. So doctors and nurses who could all read, or they would not be doctors and nurses, and who monitored this patient's vitals daily, were literally poisoning this man to death. And there was nothing he could do about it. He knew they were killing him, and he told me plainly. And I asked him why he didn't refuse the medication, and he told me that he had tried repeatedly in vain. He told me firsthand that they would overwhelm him, hold him down, force-feed him the medication, or give him injections of it against his will. He testified to me that the whole way he even ended up there was that his wife concocted a scheme with an attorney to get him committed so she could spend funds he inherited from his dead mother. He testified of being assaulted and force-fed toxic substances that he knew was killing him repeatedly, and that he was without strength to fight it any longer. I testified firsthand that sadistic psychotic quacks that I saw with my own eyes actually laughed, thought it was funny that their patients were drooling on themselves and twitching uncontrollably because of the substances they were giving them. They enjoy, not all of them, some of them are so damn deceived themselves, they actually think that what they're doing is the way to treat people. And if that's the case, they're so unintelligent they should be permanently barred from medical practice, period. Either way, these things should not be going on. Whether they're so self-deceived and self-deluded that what they think is medical treatment, acceptable medical care, is torturing and murdering people, or if they're so damn sadistic they actually enjoy doing it. Either way, those people should be locked up. They are wrong in their thinking. Wrong thinking. And that's what they do. That's what they do in their 9-to-5 jobs. I watched it firsthand. Whole groups of them. I testify firsthand that those sadistic psychotic quacks that work there deliberately enjoy destroying persons' lives by forcing these FDA-approved, euthanizing and organ-damaging pharmaceuticals on innocent Americans and other global citizens who have not been found guilty of committing any crimes whatsoever, but are nonetheless being illegally confined and tortured, and in some cases where victims have no outside ties, being experimented on and even murdered at will by these cultists. If there are any investigations, or when victims escape their clutches and try to tell others these crimes are occurring, people have been so successfully brainwashed through propaganda that these individuals are medical professionals, that all their patients are mentally ill. No one believes those testifying, despite the fact that even public advertisements now tell us plainly the FDA is approving these substances that are known to cause. We're not talking about a tiny percentage here. They claim it's a tiny percentage. Even if it was a tiny percentage, it's wrong. It's wrong to give a toxic substance to another human being. They won't take it. I guarantee these people won't take it. If they do, they're idiots. And who's to say that just because an idiot's willing to kill themselves, that all the rest of us should just follow along? tell us in the advertisements that the FDA, man, has approved these substances, that these things cause permanent organ damage, permanent brain damage, and even death. And they're letting it be forced upon, not willfully chosen for people that are, I don't know what's wrong with their brains to take these substances when they tell you that. But you are not thinking clearly. Those chemicals are highly toxic, and they know it. And they're not pulling it off the market. Instead, they're allowing people to be tortured and murdered in these ways. Ask yourself truly, who really, in fact, is mentally ill here? An innocent person who, having committed no crime whatsoever, is locked up against their will by these people. By the way, when they commit somebody, it's guaranteed income for them. They ensure job security. How many people for, job security or otherwise would love to have a position like that where you could just guarantee yourself, generous salaries? But that's what these people do. They slander and libel somebody, torture them, and then murder them. At best, they claim they successfully treated somebody that's released, drooling on themselves, or doing the Thorazine shuffle. And they get paid to do it. Paid generously to do it. So who's the really mentally ill there? The innocent person who, having committed no crime whatsoever, is locked up against their will by these people. An innocent person who struggles for their freedom and their very life in vain against these people who libel, slander, and torture them. An innocent person who risks public ridicule and perhaps even their own very life to warn others that these things are going on, and governments around the world, including our own, are condoning these practices. Or the psychotic quack who parades around in their arrogance like he or she is a doctor or nurse, and intentionally gives toxic poisons that leave their patients, rather their victims, in a vegetative or comatose state, or drooling on themselves, or uncontrollable muscle twitching, or some other permanent injury, or even dead, as acceptable medical practice. Who's really the mentally ill? The patient? The victim that these people all tell you are mentally ill? Or them? These drugs, man, cause all that I've listed and more. And an early demise, sooner or later, it takes years off people's lives, every one of these drugs do. Years off their lives. There have been documentaries of surviving families from the deaths of these drugs that have gone in person to the FDA, and they still permit these drugs to be administered and forced upon innocent citizens. They smile as they watch their patients drool on themselves or twitch uncontrollably due to their medical treatments. Hundreds of thousands of documented deaths have occurred due to these pharmaceutical drugs, and millions of undocumented cases classified under other causes because it took victims longer to die from them being poisoned over a prolonged period of dying. People, face it, God is right. His judgments are righteous and true altogether. We have all been duped by propaganda into thinking that pharmaceutical manufacturers, doctors, and nurses all mean well, when in fact the evidence is overwhelming that the chemicals they are forcing upon us, that they add to the natural substances God made for our health. The unnecessary additives, not intrinsic in the process of making the drug itself. Chemical poisons are added to these pills that have nothing to do with the intrinsic process of making the so-called health remedy. Yes, it is done on a regular basis. Absolutely it is. We've all been duped by the pharmaceutical giants, by the propaganda and advertising, by all the greed involved in making people sick and dying. There's no way that these substances that have known side effects, all of which are harmful in varying degrees, are put on the market unknowingly in ignorance. There's no way that the doctors and nurses that prescribe and dish these things out are innocent of these heinous crimes when they intentionally poison someone to death against their own wishes or give medications that state plainly not to administer to any person with limb damage to someone who is overtly jaundiced. There's nobody that incompetent or that stupid. These are done intentionally. They are committing premeditated homicide of the worst kind. They are not that stupid. They are not that innocent. They're not that ignorant. Everybody, when these people are finally busted, they all claim that, oh, I didn't do it intentionally. Like the doctors and nurses that murdered those people during Katrina. Well, I didn't go up there thinking, I'm going to murder all these people. No, they just did it anyways. Had to walk up flights of stairs and inject these people with lethal doses, and I just somehow did it. And everybody bought that load of crap? Why are these people not locked up or executed? They committed numerous murders. Has our government done anything to stop it? I just know, but hell no. They've been, if anything, releasing more and more toxins on the market. They are guilty of the same atrocities that we went to war over in Nazi Germany, and I will fight this evil until I either succeed in their justified apprehension and confinement for their tortures and murders, or until the whole world knows how depraved and degenerate these persons are and can no longer get away with their heinous actions. Let's face it, if doctors and nurses really cared about their patients, they would not force upon them substances they would never take themselves, under any circumstances, or give to their children or anybody they actually care about. Let's face it, if the pharmaceutical manufacturers really cared about us, they would not intentionally add toxic chemicals, poisons, and medications to make us more ill, so we buy more of their medications to put us on drugs for life, getting rich off poisoning us and making us ill in the name of acceptable medical treatment. If they really cared for us, they would grow the flowers, the herbs, the roots, and give us the barks and the leaves of natural substances God made in its natural, unaltered state with no harmful additives, and these substances would help us recover, not keep us on chemicals for the rest of our lives, the rest of our deteriorating quality of life, as the modern pharmaceutical and medical complex does to us now. And finally, face it, that there is no way our leaders that go to the best colleges on earth that get letters like this from myself and other surviving victims that have access to all the class action suits filed for all the deaths and injuries these drugs are causing, do not leave such poisons on the market in ignorance. They are allowing the torture and deaths of innocent Americans by doctors and nurses now, just like CNN exposed during Katrina. Doctors and nurses have been busted globally doing illegal organ harvesting, and for every news story that we hear about, there are millions of victims dead by the ones not caught. I, for one, will not and cannot remain silent at this outrage. As a result of what these wicked persons did to me, I suffer in my person so horribly at times that I have to struggle to find the will to live. As such, whatever days I have left on earth, I will use whatever strength and ability God gives me to alert all citizens that this evil is becoming epidemic. And if we do not unite together and hold our leaders accountable for allowing such heinous atrocities to go on unaddressed, and if we do not demand public oversight of all hospitalized procedures, specifically in the manners I suggest on this website, then these crimes will become so prevalent that not just the secretive ones already in practice, but open exterminations upon innocent citizens truly loom in the very near future. Please, help me put public pressure on all authorities and create public awareness so that these criminals in government and in hospitals will find themselves properly behind bars, or better yet, executed for their mass murders and heinous, torturous atrocities. I affirm the truth of this statement this 4th of July, 2010, before all heaven and earth. After years of trying in vain and documented efforts to contact any and all responsible parties that could help me ensure public safety from criminals that I cannot and will not tolerate on the loose. This is just another documented effort of mine to ensure you and your loved ones' safety. I will not give up fighting along with living and brave, deceased patriots and global heroes and heroines against this kind of evil in our midst until I prevail or die trying, respectfully for all who stand against these abominations with me. Michael Swenson. And keep in mind that the letter I'm about to read and sending to respective governors and the President as proof that their offices have been notified repeatedly by me, and as to the content of what I'm sending to them as a result of my frustration over years of polite pleas, repeatedly submitted to them all in vain. I have evidence of all of those pleas, including the $10 trillion class action suit I filed because of these crimes, in which all of these personages and parties and responsible entities of our government were clearly served and notified. I have proof of all that, and I have proof of all the signed return receipts that with years of persistence, I have been unable to find even one single competent individual in our government anywhere willing to address these atrocities that I have personally survived and witnessed firsthand, suffering unfortunately to this day from. And so this is the result of my frustration over the fact that none of these people are fulfilling their oaths of office. None of these people care about your and my safety any longer. They'd rather play golf with their rich, greedy buddies, man, that are responsible for the blood-soaked bills, man, being used to bribe politicians to make us, in their minds, be as nothing. Will you not help me restore sanity to America and fight for the freedoms and the justice and the very lives of you and your children? Officials that are responsible, competent persons of integrity, if there are any left in government anywhere, here's a letter. I'm going to show you. I'm enclosing this too. I'm not just reading it. I'm enclosing this to these people. They're going to get this letter. Because all the proofs of service and stuff, and all the, signed return receipts, they can just say some, other content was in the letter. So I'm showing you the content. I'm going to show you I'm enclosing it in these letters. I'm going to show you I'm mailing it. I'm tired of their lies. I'm tired of these people not behaving responsibly and ethically. Not, doing their duties, man. They are not performing their oaths to serve and protect us. They are preying upon us. And they are condoning, man, by their inactions at the very least, by their negligence at the very least, horrendous atrocities being committed within the borders of this country. I have directly informed yours and many respected and pertinent offices that I'm an eyewitness and personal survivor of atrocities being committed within the United States of America. I have personally witnessed and survived mass murdering physicians in the states of Washington and Idaho. I have personally suffered from police so corrupt that they blackmail women for sex acts rather than arrest them for first-degree attempted homicide like they should. I have told you that an FBI agent threatened to lock me up if I even tried to present the evidence of these atrocities. I have told you that I spent all my strength, energy, and resources contacting every agency, medical review board, governing official on a local, state, and federal level, including a personal visit to the U.S. Prosecutor's Office where a prosecutor, instead of looking at said evidence, decided to mock and insult me, and I have proof of this. I filed a civil complaint in U.S. District Court and named all executive powers that had jurisdiction over these matters to make certain they were served. This was after direct notification through USPS, signed return receipt of all named authorities who had sat on their overpaid, corrupt, lazy, apathetic, complicit asses and did nothing, and knew that they were leaving mass murderers and rapists in offices of public trust. And with proof of legal service in my hands, the court dismissed the case before any hearings by alleging no such service had even occurred. Even the Court of Appeals lied on record, stating no brief was ever filed when I had copies of the filed notice and brief as evidence that I did. Court of Appeals returned my electronic submission on media in addition to the written one and alleged that they had never even received such. I have proof of delivery by the United States Postal Service and return from them in my holdings. In short, I have done everything a citizen can do within our structured system to no avail, and daily I have to live with how many others are being tortured and murdered right now as I speak to you. Because of my inability to find even one intelligent, competent professional in government anywhere. And because when you have the duty, the authority, the power, the weapons, the armor, and responsibility to make all necessary arrests without loss of life, including your own, you force citizens without such blessings to have to consider taking matters into their own hands to ensure public safety. Do your jobs. Your lazy, apathetic, ignorant, wicked, evil, and corrupt attitudes and actions or complete lack thereof are inexcusable. After contacting all authorities with any jurisdiction over these matters, every single one of these entities are either so corrupt, so lazy, so ignorant, so apathetic, or so evil, they have without exception all made excuses why not to do their jobs and duties, but to leave said murderers, mass murderers, rapists, accessories, and accomplices loose in places of public trust that they all most definitely have responsibility over. By your apathetic and unprofessional attitudes, you also under law can be held criminal and civilly liable for negligence if not brought up on charges of accessory and accomplices yourself, aiding and abetting known felony offenders. In fact, the attitudes I have universally met with in all offices of public trust are so appalling, I think you all should be permanently removed from your positions, without pay, without benefits, without pensions, and brought to trial to suffer the same consequences as the vile filth you are allowing to run free. Can any of you or any public official anywhere explain to me why you all don't deserve the death penalty when you leave mass murderers and sex offenders loose to prey upon innocent citizens at will when you have the authority and responsibility of your offices to stop them? Can any of you explain why in gross negligence and extreme violations of your oaths of office and service, in allowing heinous offenses to be committed against innocent citizens, even despite survivors' pleas and petitions, why you should not all be brought up on charges of high treason meriting capital punishment for violations of the U.S. Constitution, civil rights, humanitarian rights, and international laws? If you are unaware of these factual events that I am relating in my struggle through personal agony I imagine few can endure, or the past recent years to save others from these wicked persons, or have never heard from me before, then the recommended consequences herein, unless you likewise aid the perpetrators of these atrocities by your actions or inaction, do not pertain to you, and the well-deserved insults and intentions towards very corrupt officials in our government. But be sure of this, their psychological inability to consider that I am telling the truth about factual events and need their assistance in arresting mass murderers still at large, and sex offenders still at large, and corrupt officials who are for insane reasons obviously covering up these crimes from public knowledge, does not mean you have to join in their apathetic attitudes or lethargic actions. If you, by your lack of action, allow such criminals to remain at large, what is to ensure the safety of yourselves, your relations, or anyone else you might actually care about? Your prompt attention to this matter is most seriously petitioned. I am no longer going to plead with the same authorities for you to get off your lazy, corrupt asses, you most sorry excuses of humanity. But I am going to tell and show the whole world all that I have done to secure their health and safety, and all of your replies demonstrating your direct complicity in all of these crimes. You will do your duties in this life, and you will fulfill your oaths, for by Almighty God I will stand, along with all of the victims of heinous atrocities you allowed to go on, and in the white throne judgment with God Christ, and remind He who holds the keys to paradise and hell. Why, there is no way you should hold any position of power and authority now or in eternity, and why you should most definitely burn with the murderers and rapists you did nothing to stop when surviving victims did everything. Signed under penalty of perjury, sincerely and without any respect for you all deserve none. Michael Swenson. This 4th day of July 2010. That's me. I'm not ashamed. I'm telling the truth. Get off your asses. Stop leaving mass murderers, and rapists loose to prey upon innocent citizens. Order an investigation. Find some competent, intelligent individuals that I can talk to and show this evidence that can understand that it is evidence. So far, everybody I've met, man, needs to be educated to even understand, the medical evidence that I'm trying to present. It's no wonder these people are getting away with their crimes. Apparently, we've got a bunch of, people that just like to play golf, running things. When are we going to have decent leadership? And if you are decent leadership, then I'm telling you, Americans are being murdered at will. Because apparently you're not organizing competent, intelligent individuals to protect them. So please start right now. Should have been yesterday. Should have been yesteryear. Should never have occurred. As you can see, this letter that I just read is clearly being inserted into the highest office of the land, because all offices underneath them have done nothing. Nothing. The great excuse of what is sit on their ass and go play golf. Leave rapists in uniform. If you're a cop and you're wanting the public to respect you instead of calling you pigs and stuff, deservedly so as far as I can tell, then you need to arrest the scumbags in your own ranks. Stop thinking that just because they wear the uniform that there's somehow, a code of honor in remaining silent. It shouldn't be your worst caller to make. It should be your highest caller to make sure there are no scum in your own ranks, because it affects how everyone else in the entire citizenry sees your office. Get rid of the scumbags in your own ranks, and politicians do the same. Get rid of all bribe-taking, politicians that think that just because they're taking a little bit of money, there's no harm done. Well, millions are dying under the oppression, suffering and dying, because of personal greed and corruption. It's time, man, for honor, righteousness, integrity, man, to once again hold office. It's time for once again the truth to be taught little children that it came from God and not monkeys. Science has proven it. And the reason that knowledge is suppressed is because governments can manipulate brainwashed idiots a lot easier than they can manipulate sons and daughters of the Most High God that know better, can actually think. President is getting a copy of this. Sealed. Sending the same letter. You can see it's the same letter. Signed. To U.S. Department of Justice. Why? Because as I read to you, Department of Justice employees, man, are breaking the law. Claiming no legal services made when services made by U.S. district judges, that person should be permanently banned from practicing law, if not arrested for conspiracy in these issues. In the U.S. Court of Appeals, man, when I have evidence that they had the brief delivered to them and they claim that no such brief ever even arrived, when I have evidence that it was delivered to their clerk and sent back to me, yeah. Not only was it previously filed before that, but copies were then later set that they returned to me, claiming that they never got it. All those individuals need to be permanently debenched and held accountable. 911 is the tip of the iceberg of what these people are doing globally. And for all of you out there that are still, self-deluded, man, or successfully propagandized into believing that our government had nothing to do with 911, you need to do some research fast. Because every time our governing officials and any other government is left to think that it's okay to prey upon their own citizens, man, and just murder them at will for whatever reason, only encourages future governing leaders, man, to consider that it's okay to do the same thing and no one will hold them accountable. We must hold them accountable. I'm going to do everything I can in my life, whatever's left of it, to make sure these people are held accountable. We have gone way off of our heritage and way off what's sane into a land of, extreme jeopardy, man. to not just quality of life and freedom, but to your survival. We must address these things. We have to address these evils. They cannot be allowed to go on unaddressed any longer. The public must spread the word until these criminals are no longer able to get away with their crimes. And in spreading the word, put whatever pressure is necessary until these people are held accountable, or until the people that we've elected to serve and protect us actually do so. Okay, so far that's two. The President and the U.S. Department of Justice Office of Responsibility. Now I'm sending that same notice also to the previously notified FBI headquarters, because one of their underlings in a local office decided to threaten me. And the reason being is not because he didn't believe I was telling the truth. The reason being is because the scumbag knew I was telling the truth. I know he knows I know he knows that I was telling the truth and that he was covering for his corrupt officer buddies, not wanting the scandal to play out. In other words, he'd rather leave rapists in uniform to prey upon innocent citizens than arrest them. They're all buds. It's only proper to cover for one another. They want us to respect them, to hold their uniform with honor and respect and integrity, when the people in it, man, are anything but. I'm not saying all of them, but far too many of them. Why the hell have none of our authorities, man, arrested the treasonous politicians, man, over 911 when the evidence is overwhelming? When we've got architects and scientists and first-hand eyewitnesses, firefighters, law enforcement that were there trying to come forward and enlighten the public and the world, man. But they even heard the countdown as they pulled the buildings, man, in controlled demolition. The evidence is overwhelming, man. Bush was involved. Overwhelming. The entire family's corrupt. I mean, anybody who does any historical research on the Bush family, man, should, almost feel like puking as to why they're even loose. Now, all of them are behind bars or swinging from a rope for treason. Not to mention numerous leaders in our past. Like the one who sold us out to the bankers, man, creating a Federal Reserve, when we, the people, had the right to mint as much money as possible and necessary for the solvency of the nation, so there would be no national debt. But now we're all slaves, man, to the bankers. And why? Because corrupt leaders, man, took bribes to make it so. It's an historical fact. And when enough of us are pissed off enough about it and stuff to regain our national heritage, man, to be truly patriotic about the United States of America, the land of the free and the home of the brave, then maybe once again we'll be free, instead of slaves like we are this day, paying tribute to Caesars. I already notified Janet Napolitano, man, many times, so I'm just sending it generally to the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, because this is a Homeland Security issue. Terrorism of the worst kind is occurring against American citizens, man. And a lot of Americans, man, are duped into thinking that it's not. It needs to be addressed. The public needs to become aware. The world needs to become aware this is going on. Population management. Euthanization of innocent citizens by governments around the world. By insane persons, by greedy doctors, by sadistic people, by evil Satanists. I'm not exaggerating. I'm only telling you these things because most of you do no research. Most of you don't read anymore. Most of you don't do anything but sit in front of the tube. You're so tired because, as part of their program, you're overworked and underpaid to keep you so tired that allows them to do what they want unchecked. Because you're all so exhausted and you're all so successfully propagandized into being slaves that you can't think and see for yourself anymore. So it takes individuals like myself willing to, be called names, willing to be hated, willing to be ridiculed, willing to, risk my own life, my welfare, my safety, to say, I'm willing to do that so that the rest of you, please, will start looking into these things. Don't just write it off. Don't just think that somebody's gone nuts. So that even if I don't live in a world that's made better by my efforts, that hopefully, after my demise, man, it might be improved through them. One way or another, I want this world to be a better place because I've been here. Because I know we're accountable to God, to our Creator who made us. That when we lie in the dust, man, our spirit ascends or descends. That there's a heaven to be gained and a hell to be shunned. We're going to be accountable for our actions here in this life. And a lot of people need to start living like it. Once again, another copy, signed. Let me just sign them all. To say I'm angry is an understatement. To say I'm outraged is an understatement. To say I'm infuriated is an understatement. There isn't an adjective that describes the level of anger I have against this type of evil being perpetrated against innocent, unsuspecting citizens. Not just in our country, but around the world. Wow, man, these people need to be held accountable. They're insane. They think they're so superior to us that we don't deserve, man, in any way, shape, or form to be treated like they want to be treated, with respect and have a good quality of life. Alright, so another copy. You can see it's the same one, the same date, signed by me, same content. A lot of people think, what a fool. Why, when you know our officials are corrupt and doing these things and so on and so forth, would you, in any way, shape, or form, continue to address them? This is going to the NSA, National Security Administration. When you know they're spying, when you know they're destroying people's lives at will, say, what a fool. And again, it's because our governing leaders are not the end all. We are governed ultimately by the people. The power is in your hands. If you choose to hold them accountable, if the people all unite together, man, there is no way they can continue to do these things. And so I'm hoping by the fact that they know that I'm telling everybody, the whole world, that they have done nothing to ensure their public safety and everything to actually ensure otherwise are danger. Open season on innocent citizens. And maybe some of them might, turn the light bulb on and say, maybe we better stop doing these things. But ultimately, it's because I know that I know beyond all doubt, having already been clinically dead several times, and I have medical records to prove it, that there is so-called life after death. That the one true God is the God of the Holy Bible, that Jesus Christ is risen indeed, and that we are all going to give an account to the ultimate authority, the ultimate government, he who rules the universe. And not only can he not tolerate such evil, I cannot either. Will not. And if it costs me my freedom, or my life, or personal injury, so be it. Office of the Governor. This one's going to Office of the Governor in Idaho. And a copy is going to Officer of the Governor in Washington. Because in both states I witnessed firsthand that there are mass murdering doctors and nurses loose. And they are murdering innocent Americans at will. unaddressed. The cops did nothing. The FBI did nothing. Local authorities, state authorities, and federal authorities have done nothing to ensure you and your children's safety when I witnessed and survived firsthand mass murderers and, unfortunately, sex offenders in police departments. Higher authorities have done nothing to ensure your safety. Nothing. They've left all these people loose. And I've got proof of my allegations. Every single one of them, man, has made excuses why not to do their jobs. They're inherently lazy. They're collecting cushy checks, cushy benefits, and they're so used to it, and they're so used to the general public not holding them accountable. They've gotten so used to their nice cushy jobs for sitting on their asses and doing not a damn thing that they've just all just considered that when anybody comes forward and tells of these heinous crimes, I'm not the only one. I know for a fact other citizens are stepping up and reporting these crimes to police, but that universally the result is the same. They're all lazy, they're all ignorant, they're all apathetic. I'm not saying all of them, but so many of them that most of the time the reports never even get written. Instead, the people get laughed out of the freaking police departments. Mocked as everyone goes, there's another one. The victims desperately try, man, to get these perpetrators arrested. Not because most people are psychologically incapable of realizing that we're telling the truth. It's okay when you hear about evil on the other side of the planet, then you go, oh yeah, there's some evil sick fuckers, man, and other governments and oppressive tyrants somewhere over there. But it's never okay when it's in your own backyard, when it's right in your own locale. Because people can't handle it. It forces them to have to think about some action, to have to do something about it. And people don't want to face evil. So they automatically, say that anybody telling the truth like this is nuts. So that it excuses their inaction. And I'm telling you that that kind of attitude caused millions of people to be exterminated in the last World War. And you need to friggin' get your head out of your wishful thinking and face reality when you are confronted by it and change it for the better instead of doing nothing, instead of pretending it doesn't exist. Like I said, I won't cease until I succeed in stopping these atrocities or until I'm dead. I will continue to do whatever is necessary, man, to live with a clear conscience before God. Show you it's the same copy again, signed, same material. Going to a U.S. prosecutor. Same complaint. Again, all these officers have been notified. Like I said, they got copies of the suit with all my allegations. There's a public record of it. These people can't, claim that, they're all ignorant. Like, I just didn't know that was going on. The flunky must have thrown it out. Bullshit. If I was in charge, man, I would do a fine-tooth house cleaning from the highest levels of offices in our government all the way down to the lowest municipalities, man, the tiniest townships. I know exactly how I'd do it. I'd get rid of all the corrupt scum, in our government now loose. Now, that's not to say that it wouldn't rise again. But at least the method would be established for men ensuring, that we have people of public integrity. The public safety in mind as their first, priority. and an example of real consequences for those who don't, those who think their officers are somehow enabling them to get away with, heinous crimes and preying upon us. I know how to do it. I don't want to do it. It's not what I want to do with my life. I just don't find anybody else that's willing to risk their life, man, to face the incumbent corruption, man, if necessary, lethally. Again, same letter. I'm not ashamed, man. Not ashamed of my efforts. I'll take a polygraph, man. Not one staged by the government, made to make me look bad, cover up their complicity. But an international one, somebody that can't be threatened or bribed or coerced by our existing authorities. If there is such a person, like I said, man, only people I know that are like that are those that fear God above all else. Of those that know they're responsible to God above all else. These are all prosecutors, U.S. prosecutors, that have jurisdiction, that know through their many court cases, the investigators that, have a good and honorable reputation over the ones that don't. That could put pressure, man, in order to get those particular individuals, man, to get off their fucking ass, excuse my language, and do something about this. It's wrong. Attorney General. I'm sending certified to the President and return receipt, because I've already got signatures from all the other offices, on return receipts before. And since I've shown y'all what I sent them, there's no need for me to waste money on postage, man, getting more and more evidence of their complicity when I have more than enough already. So I'm just going to send it, regular postage, man, U.S. First class. And again, I'm going to show you mailing this all to them, so you can all see that I clearly at a U.S. post office. I'm clearly mailing this. As I say, I'm mailing it. Everything I've shown you. Everything I've shown you and everything I've read to you. And again, you can go through my website and determine, easily that I'm telling the truth. Well, as hard as it is for you to believe, or as hard as it is for you to want to believe, it's the truth. And the only way it's going to change for the better is if we stop, doing nothing. And we all start doing something, whatever it is that we can do, to tell these people that those crimes are unacceptable, period. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And to demand accountability of our public leaders, publicly elected officials, and all their subordinates. Demand accountability. They work for us, man, not the other way around. Okay, so you can see, again, sending a letter, informing the President, that we've got mass murderers and rapists in places of public trust that are still loose. And nobody under his authority, man, nobody under his authority has done anything to help me to stop them. Another letter, postage. 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 This is just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, I sent out hundreds of faxes. Hundreds of faxes. I have notified anybody and everybody I could possibly think of that has any connection whatsoever with responsibility to the crimes I've witnessed and experienced and suffered from. And even if they don't have entire jurisdiction over all of it, every one of the ones I sent to had some type of responsibility over at least part of it, but made excuses why not to do anything. Why to brush it off on somebody else? I mean, there's an epidemic of lazy, apathetic, incompetent individuals these days. And again, I attribute it all to the fact that they're being taught they came from monkeys, and so they're acting like it. Nobody's taking pride anymore in their work, in their service, products or services. Consequently, our economy's taking a serious decline because we got greed so rampant that people think they should make money just because they have money, rather than providing a product or service, rather than do anything worthwhile. Just throw money and make people into slaves, pay them the lowest wages possible so they can get the highest return on their investment. All of it is directly linked to little kids being told they came from monkeys instead of God. And that's the truth. Right. So now you can see that I'm at a U.S. post office and I'm making this this mail drop. Everything I just showed you. Again, you can see these letters. The most important of which, because he has the highest office in the land, #1 law enforcement in the land. Here's my receipt for having paid. Again, I'm obviously at a U.S. Postal Service station. Very easily seen. And coming over to stand letters. Placing all stamped letters, including the one to the president, and all these other officials. You can see them all. They're all there. They're all the same ones that I just went through. Clearly in the mail drop box. Clearly mailed. This 4th of July. This 4th of July. I, Michael Swenson, do this in the name of Almighty God, and as a freeborn citizen of the United States of America, I have the right to redress our government with all grievances. And these are extreme grievances indeed. We cannot have rapists for cops, and we cannot have mass murderers for doctors. Please help me arrest these individuals as soon as possible.